This is an Audio Wool original.
Frightday. I'm your host, Byron. We're broadcasting live from our encrypted compound in the woods of Montana. And on November 23rd, 2024, at 11:26 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, I received an email from an untraceable email account, blackmail1953 at protonmail.me. Subject line, Allentown. Along with a single cryptic sentence in Latin determined to be from a play written in 163 BC, was 3 minutes and 58 seconds of audio that spun Kelly's head. Since then, we've been in communication with this mysterious Pooh character several times. More words, audio, and now images. Whistleblower, hoaxer, who knows, but we're going to break down the details to determine what the hell is being communicated and why. It's Allentown in this week's edition of Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies. I'm joined tonight by Kelly.
Hello.
And Sam can't make it because he's clearly the author of all of this.
You guys, funny enough, I don't know who has listened to last week's episode or not, but I kind of had a mini meltdown as Jacob and Byron suggested that this could be Sam. Because the notion that he could lie that well to me, obviously.
Well, and clearly he misses the show. It's one of the best things
obviously
in his life that he's let go.
Obviously.
So,
yeah, obviously.
He's welcome back anytime.
I know. I actually almost had him.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm just trying
You're
to adjust
doing that
myself.
thing where you get adjusted again.
Yep.
One of our very popular shorts is of you trying to communicate with me while you just kind of... Yeah, it's terrible.
It's like the Bill Murray when he was on Rogan. Did you see that clip where he got up to go to the bathroom?
Yeah, you are kind of like Bill Murray.
Yep.
Except you didn't try to kiss someone on the set of a movie and get the whole movie destroyed. Right?
No, I don't think I've never had that kind of power.
That's good. Well,
I am more like, who is the comedian that I sent you that clip of that was like horrifyingly me on a bad day?
Rachel Dratch. On Amy Poehler's show.
Like when I showed that clip to Sam, he was like, "No,
it's concerning.
No, this is exactly what you do."
Well, yeah, you said she's charming. I said, yeah, but she did it once, and you do it every week.
No, I don't have people at the door.
You've gotten better. Speaking of every week, this is a live show every week at live.frightday.com. You can tune in, chat live, hang out with the community. What are you doing over there? I
don't know.
All right. You can also give us a call, 1-833-374-4489. That's 1-833-FRIGHT9. But don't give us a call at all because we are only accepting calls from Alan.
Oh, that's not true. We want calls from everybody.
No,
but
only Alan.
I especially need some calls from Alan. I've got so many questions.
And honestly, maybe even the piano man, if he's tuning in.
The piano man frightens the shit out of me.
Severe lack of the piano man in my life and miss him.
Like Allentown. Well,
we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about all of it.
Talk about it.
So, Byron, did you feel like, well, just quick up top. This is catnip for me.
Sure.
I'm really excited about this, and I've been trying to find time to actually sit down and peruse it. Finally, I just decided that I was going to call full stop to all of the other things in my life.
Pause, yeah.
And the only thing that pulled me away from this week was a uplifting political rally that we attended. Otherwise...
concerning, though, I literally just walked in. Like, there's people... How long were you in line?
We got in line at 10:15.
Sure.
And we got to the floor where we stood by like 11:15.
Okay, so an hour.
And then my child was too excited, and somebody gave her tickets to sit right behind the podium because they thought she'd look cute.
Oh, they chose
you guys.
Okay.
And
but
so,
you got wristbands, right?
So
to
we
be
got
on
wristbands.
The floor. And this was a sold-out event. It was almost 8,000 people.
Well, it was free, but it was a packed event. Yeah, they had overflow.
I walked in at about noon, a little after noon.
Well, the speakers didn't start till 1. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just walked onto the floor, and they asked me if I had a wristband, and I said, I just raised my arm up and just walked by. Yeah, it's great. It's this cool trick I learned from being in a band for so many years. Did
you go through the metal detector?
I didn't go through the metal detector. That's even more concerning. I
feel nauseous now.
I didn't like it. No, they said no more as I approached, because they were cutting off the line right after me.
And making everybody go into overflow?
But actually right before me, but I just walked forward while the other person was talking to the police officer.
That's such a you move.
And just kept on going.
You know what, Byron, I said to Sam, hey, Byron said he was the last person in. He goes, yep, that's Byron.
Of course, yeah. And then
Byron.
And then I literally just raised my hand as if I had a wristband to get onto the floor.
And then Ellery kept elbowing me. She's like, how do you not see him, Mom? He's right there. Yeah. There he is, Mom.
All that to say is it's concerning that, two of the stars of our political party, I could just kind of walk in and do whatever I want.
Montana's a dangerous place to have that kind of fuck.
So other than that, though, you've been wah-wah-weaving.
It's true, and I feel bad. I do. Not almost. I just straight up do. I want to apologize to Allentown because his efforts to get us information deserved this kind of string board approach much earlier.
And you have constructed a digital string board.
Well, I have a digital string board. I have a paper string board. I've got note cards of different colors in my backpack. And my daughters have been working very hard with me. Yep. Oh, I know. I'm not supposed to do that. Yep.
I will let you know if anyone says anything that's important.
Okay. So I am really...
There she goes again. All right.
I'm really excited to talk about it because there's some stuff that I've figured out and there's stuff that's still a mystery, but you should have seen me running up and down the stairs in my home with excitement when I figured pieces out. I've assigned certain tasks to my daughters to research. It's really great, although there are parts that I can't really have them research. It's a little bit ugly.
I feel like, we have played the audio clips as they've come in for listeners of the show.
Yeah, but we need to do a coherent, all together.
I think, and are you ready to start?
Yeah, I think so. What we're going to do, I am going to give a little bit of information up front. And in that information, I'm going to cover a bit about what the quote that we first got from Allentown meant. Title is Allentown, and as you'll hear in the audio, our informant calls himself Allentown, or herself, themselves. Right. But the name is Pooh.
Pooh, P-O-O-H.
Like Winnie the.
Mm-hmm. The guy who gets stuck in the honey hole.
Honey hole. Yep. And then we have a quote in Latin.
Oh, and this is from the first email. From November 23rd, 2024.
Yes. Yeah.
It was a Saturday, so let's see. There's Saturday, and the Monday, and Friday. Okay, I was just doing a little detective work there. See if this is a week.
Wait, we only have 3, so how did you just have 4 dates?
I think one was the response. There's a response that maybe I sent. I'm not sure. Doesn't matter. I was just looking for a pattern to see if this person just had a day job and was sending us emails on the weekend.
Homo sum humani nihil ami alienum puto.
Probably mispronounced it, but since Latin's a dead language, nobody can get too mad at me. That quote means, I am human and I consider nothing human alien to me. Now, it was from a play written in 163 BC by a fella named Terence. It translates, I'm not going to try and recite the Greek. I
phonetically broke it up here.
It's
Hiaut ont I moru mimos.
It means the tormentor of himself.
The tormentor of himself. Do you know what the play is about?
Fuck you.
All right, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal.
No, I do not. I've got way too much else to discuss this evening. We're not even doing our deep dive. We're just trying to get people on board with what is being said, and then we can go a layer deeper.
That sounds like a good plan to me. It's a play in it's Greek play. We don't need to do it yet. Don't worry about it. You do have to say words, though, if you're going to...
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to play the audio of the first clip.
Oh, you have to...
That is my bad. I'm so sorry. Yes, if we can please listen. This is the first message we ever received from Allentown in November.
My name is Allentown. I was not born with that name. Other details that I provide will not necessarily be accurate. This is necessary to obfuscate my true identity. The information I was authorized to handle in the course of my employment contains poison pills, specific to my access credential. Should I cease communication, it will be because I unwittingly revealed a pill. I was employed for 18 years at a large firm that enjoys deliriously lucrative contracts with the U.S. Department of Defense. My work focused on the maintenance of NLAVs, or non-lifting aerial vehicles. NLAVs cannot be detected by radar or downed by any conventional weapon system. They're even trouble for the naked eye. Every time the Chair Force runs one through the Taiwan Strait, the PLA's radio chatter is flooded with ghost stories, whispered and shrill. Drives the party commissars crazy. However, NLAVs have a major flaw. It is the reason why I am risking a dank cell in Leavenworth. Their method of propulsion is very exotic, non-Newtonian, non-Einsteinian, thwarts most of the EM band, so you can't skipper them remotely as you would a drone. Human pilots, born of women, have to be washed out of the cockpit with a hose. The only viable option are EBOs, engineered biological operators. Around my office, out of earshot of the brass, they are usually referred to as cousins, since they are Uncle Sam's progeny. I'm not exactly privy to the methods of their construction. That's another contractor's dark art. But I have spent a good deal of time around them. They are horrid to look at and worse to smell. A bouquet of formaldehyde and burning metal. Every once in a while they'll even speak to you hoarsely and with their unemotive slit mouths, so they're quite hard to comprehend. And then it's mostly nonsense, jumbles of letters and numbers. Though one unusually coherent EBO grabbed me by the lapel one day as I was adjusting the tenses on its seat and pulled me close to its slit. Then it whispered to me, 01 Aramcheck 207809289. Later I did some digging. That digit is a social security number. Belonged to a certain Second Lieutenant Aramcheck, shot down over Afghanistan. KIA body, recovered post-combat by mortuary affairs.
Someone could see how me receiving this email that it would be a reason for us to take a second and look at this.
Right.
4 minutes of a lot.
It is a lot, and to be honest, there are a lot of layers to unpack, and because I want to make sure we get everybody up to speed on the full story, layer one, we're not going to go as deep with it as I certainly will in the next iteration, but just covering a few phrases. He goes through, and one of the most important things Allentown gives us in this first message is his why.
I hope in the next message he tells us if we should call him Allen. I mean, he says my name is Allentown.
Yeah, I think we call him Allentown.
Why is it poo in the subject? Or in the email?
Well, I'll get to that. I've got theories.
All right, we'll go with Allen.
He gives us the why. And the why is, in fact, he even says the why he is risking being in a horrible jail cell is because of the way that these vehicles he worked on must be piloted. And this is very important because this is actually the thread that connects to the next two stories, even though it is seemingly taking a very different arc in the next two stories. So going through his message a little bit, he tells us that he used to work for basically a defense contractor for
18 years.
18 years.
It's a long time, yeah.
So, I mean, we can imagine that it is one of a few that most people know the names of.
Raytheon.
It could be Raytheon. I would imagine. I actually have a very strong suspicion that he was with Skunkworks.
Okay.
And I can also talk to you a little bit more in a bit about why I think it was Skunkworks.
Okay. And this is different than like Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar worked for the U.S. government. I mean,
oh no, he's a contractor.
Was he contracted?
Yeah. It's only. I mean, that's the way that they're able to. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
I'm sure there are some people that are
wasn't
direct.
in the military, was he? Okay. Interesting.
Right, and it is very common for it to be done that way, at least as near as I can tell. So he says that his work focused on the maintenance. Okay, so this is important. Maintenance of NLAVs. So it's NLAVS. And what that stands for is non-lifting aerial vehicles. Okay, so it means that there's some other manner of propulsion. And this is anybody who's been following the UFO stuff in recent years, that's what's constantly talked about. There's no discernible
energy field.
Yeah. It's probably anti-gravity, something, maybe involving plasma. There's a lot of discussion.
Souls of angels.
Okay. All right.
No?
No.
Not
no.
That one. Okay. Well.
He was clear they can't be detected by radar or downed by any conventional weapon system. Now that sounds a little bit familiar because that sounds a whole lot like what we've been seeing with some of these more mysterious drone events in recent months.
Every time one runs through the Taiwan Strait, the PLAs...
So, this is Chinese military,
sure.
Okay?
Radio chatter is flooded with ghost stories, whispered and shrill, drives the party commissars
crazy. Okay, so, the wording of this story is fairly eloquent, and he's using phrases that some of which I have heard and then needed to sit down and talk to Sam about, at greater length. But poison pills, for anybody who doesn't know what that means, the idea is if you are working with people who have secrets, you will give each of those individual people one weird nugget of wrong information. And that way, if the story leaks, you can tell by what nugget of wrong information was included, who leaked the story. It's basically like tracing ink on, counterfeit money so that you can tell who stole the money. But he's saying that I keep saying he because the voice is a he, so we're just going to go with that.
Sure.
But if he stops communicating, it's because he inadvertently used one of those poison pills in the stories that he was telling us.
Causing him to be had and probably eliminated.
And in order to protect himself a little bit, he does warn that some of the things he's going to throw in are not necessarily factual. There will just, other details that I provide will not necessarily be accurate. And that's okay. And sorting through that is part of our job if we're going to get information like this. So he says these vehicles he worked on couldn't be piloted by humans. And I assume...
Snowpiercer children.
Well, he's very poetic almost about the way he words it, but he's saying, I assume that like the G-forces and whatever else is exerted upon these pilots can't be survived by humans. And so instead, what they are flown by are EBOs, which is interesting. It sounds a little bit like EBEs, which we have heard before, but these are engineered biological operators.
Okay.
And they...
I mean, do you have any more information about what that could possibly be?
I do. In fact, but we're going to get to that at the end because it does connect to these other items. He doesn't know how they're constructed. He says that's another contractor's dark art. So in other words, I'm sure that there are genetic scientists and all sorts of other things working on that. But we do get into that in the next couple.
Well, playing it's a dark art too. I mean,
so he talks about them being, he doesn't give a ton of description of how they look. Mostly he gives that they are horribly stinky. Okay, so formaldehyde and burning
fair.
metal.
Yeah.
And that they have a slit of a mouth, which obviously that brings to mind, like
Gray,
a gray,
yeah.
right? And they're hard to comprehend. When you can, it's mostly just numbers and letters. And he was working one day, and apparently one of these EBOs grabbed him and whispered a name and a social security number. And this was Aramchek. And it actually is just spelled with a K on the end. Okay. Aramchek, social security number. And he says that he found that this was a pilot who crashed over Afghanistan, and the body was recovered, a killed in action body was recovered by mortuary services.
Yeah.
And that's where our first story stops.
Abruptly.
Pretty abruptly.
I mean, they gave us 4 minutes of attention. Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's big. It's a hook.
It is a hook. So, quick overview, guys. The name Aramchek actually comes from a book by Philip K. Dick that was discovered after he passed away, and so obviously published posthumously. It's called Radio Free Albemuth, and the premise of this story, so Dick was notoriously anti-Republican, hated Nixon, and this story centers on a satire of the U.S. under Nixon, even though the name of the president is different. He's kind of an amalgamation of Nixon and Joseph McCarthy and some other assholes, right?
Of the era, yeah.
And he's portraying America as a neo-fascist police state.
Well, that's weird.
So weird.
I don't know why
really
anyone
weird.
would do that.
Yeah. And the whole way that these people have gained power is with this made-up enemy organization, Conspiracy, and the company at the center of it is Aramchek. Okay, so it's a little bit interesting that that was the choice of the name that he put in for this. I, of course, can't find anything about
You didn't look up
soldier
Aramchek.
killed in action. Oh, no, I looked it up a lot, but I can't find
someone
anything
by their social
specific.
security number.
No, I mean, I'm sure you can under some search tool, but I was not able to find anything under that. This was pretty significant, however, and it also ties a little bit to the sci-fi nature of what Philip K. Dick wrote.
I was going to say, you bring in Philip K. Dick.
Yeah.
Mostly known for his
Blade
fiction,
Runner, I
right?
think.
Yeah.
It was probably his most famous. And it was made into a movie, apparently, with Alanis Morissette, which I haven't seen the movie. But, so we've got this story about some type of weird humanoid engineered biological entities that fly these crazy crafts that were worked on by some government contractor, and Allentown himself was one of them. One of the workers.
Of the slit-mouthed folks whispered this name, and we don't know why.
Well, I think the reason he whispered the name is because that's who it was. And we'll talk a little bit more about this.
Okay. Wait, you think that person was?
Yeah.
Or is?
Yep.
Cloned?
Well, we'll yeah.
All right, well.
Yep. All right, so Byron, now
So
fast forward. And unfortunately, I mean, I really appreciate Allentown because I haven't been able to get through all of this. And so, fast forward a couple of months.
Well, I emailed back.
You did, yes.
In January.
Yes.
Oh, no. Why did I let it sit so long? I guess it was Christmas. We were busy.
It was, but then in March, he got back to us.
We should read.
Oh,
all
you want to read
stuff.
what
Of
you
course,
said?
Yeah.
Oh, well, he didn't really care what you said, but
It was
okay.
Wednesday, January 8th at 10:13 a.m. I said compelling audio. As we begin to break down the first message, I'd love a little more confirmation of your authenticity if you could provide it. I'd hate to invest more time and resources into research if this is simply a hoax. Any additional audio, video, or photos shared in good faith would be appreciated. If not, I'm unsure we'd be able to broadcast further on this. So that was January.
And he said, yeah, fuck you, but let me give you something more because obviously you need to understand why you have to broadcast
Well,
this.
it took him or them until March 3rd at 7:30 p.m., which is a Monday, to respond to me, saying,
in a more civilized times, if the Doge took Venice to war and lost, that Doge would be put to death. Alas, we do not. Our resources are limited. Please accept this meager audio in place of good video.
Okay, so let me explain a couple of things really
Sure,
quickly. I think this would be a good time to dig into poo.
Winnie the...
Could mean a whole bunch of different things, but Pooh was the name of there were two cannons named Winnie and Pooh that dueled with the Nazis across the English Channel.
Cannons, really? Like on a
Huge
ship?
ones during World War II. No,
on
they were like
land?
literally on the cliffs of Dover.
Yeah.
And on so firing across back and forth at each other.
Huh.
And it could be because there's some World War II ties that we'll hear in a minute. Could be referencing that. Also, I think that the Doge statement...
The Department of Government Efficiency.
Right. And talking about if Doge went to war with Venice, they lost, Doge would be killed, but we don't live in those times. Our resources are limited. I actually think he's very specifically referring to, in a more civilized time, if we went to war with Germany and Germany lost, we would just kill the German officers and elites. But we didn't live in a more civilized time. In fact, resources were scarce, and so we brought the scientists to America to use them instead of killing them. And I think that's specifically what he's referencing.
Talking about Operation Paperclip.
Yes, indeed. Yep. So let's listen to the second message from Allentown, and we'll break down that piece afterwards.
Let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, in a quaint little village on the Baltic coast, there was a man. His name was Kurt, and Kurt loved two things above all else: his country and the diaphanous mysteries of luminiferous capacitation. For this reason, the king of his country appointed Kurt to develop weapons that could strike their enemy across the sea. They already had a wonderful weapon for this purpose, but alas, it required a heady cocktail of liquid oxygen and alcohol, very resource intensive. Thus, Kurt had been set to the glorious purpose of developing a method of propulsion that might loose their fretful missiles with little more than lanthanum plates gapped by an exotic dielectric sourced from the fairy realm of Neuschwabenland. I won't bore you with the trial data. I could barely get through it myself, and Fracture is hell on the eyes. Anyway, he succeeded after a fashion, as his team was able to levitate a molybdenum steel pipe, literally jerry-rigged with a Howlback-style array, some 3 meters in the air. Though, before he could try lashing that 12 Yocto-Farad spaghetti mess to a Hyde Park-bound warhead, Operation Hydra rolled through and leveled that quaint little village. After that, on the recommendation of his good friend, Hans Kammler, Kurt moved his research to an even quainter little village in southern Poland. I'm sure you've heard of it.
I mean, there's something here from AB that I think might be relevant.
Okay.
Doge is Dulce, like in Il Dulce. It's also the title for the Duke of Venice.
Ooh.
I want to take a note.
So Doge is... I don't understand the first part. I know D means dulce, or dulce means sweet in Italian, but I guess I don't understand.
Doge is Dulce, like in Il Dulce. I-L, Dulce, like in a different language. What is that? What language is Dulce?
Well, dulce is Italian. It means sweet. Well, I mean, it's real close to Spanish as well, but it means sweet in Italian directly.
Also the title of the Duke of Venice. All right, well, just take a note.
Oh, Mussolini.
Ah,
Mussolini.
So, interesting. So that's...
Interesting indeed.
Wonderful. This is why we do this. I really wanted to do this live, so I'm glad that we're doing a little bit of that in here.
I completely agree. All right, so...
Also, Morse code in the background?
There is Morse code in the background.
Yeah.
I was going to put that on Sam to try and figure out, actually.
Let me see if I can pull the audio real quick, just for fun.
Okay, well, no, actually, don't touch it, because I need you to digest what I'm saying. It's actually important.
I have to listen to you?
Yes, you have to.
All right.
Listen?
Yep.
Nope, stop it.
Okay.
Put it the fuck away.
All right.
Okay. All right, so first of all, a lot of the words in here, though it is very fancy, they are actually meaningful. For example, the phrase luminiferous capacitations. Okay?
Not just a band.
Though I do really still want it to be my band name. I don't know why you made fun of me for that when in
bad.
fact
It's
you're
not
actually
good.
wanting it yourself.
No, I will not take it. Pass on.
It was actually one of the theories for how things flew. Okay, so it was before we...
Saying light caused things to fly.
And it was also known as luminiferous ether. Okay, it was kind of like early scientists thought that this was a thing that filled all of the space around us, and that it was how light worked. It was basically like pre-Einsteinian ideas. This was one of the fill in the blanks for a lot of scientific theory.
Well, clearly the sun is made of light, and that's why it's so high in the sky.
Well, it reminds me a little bit. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Reminds me a little bit of the idea of Lemuria being very real until we understood plate tectonics.
Yeah.
The idea of luminiferous capacitation was very real. And what he's getting at here is Kurt was very interested in rockets. He grew up in a small town in the Baltic Sea. I was so fucking proud of myself.
Kurt that he mentioned.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was so proud of myself when I started digging into this, because I discovered this was, in fact, Kurt Debus, or Dabus, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Dr. Kurt Dabus, in fact. The town he is from is Peenemünde. Okay. Peenemunde.
And this is a little village on the Baltic coast.
Yep. And it was indeed leveled.
And this is just your guess of this, right?
Oh, no, it's 100% true.
Well, but I'm just saying.
No, it is 100% true. I promise. Just wait.
Okay.
We brought Kurt over. So he worked very diligently with the Nazis. And then we brought him over in Operation Paperclip, and he actually ran the Apollo program.
Okay, I guess there's a little bit more evidence there. Yeah.
Oh, no, there's
even more? Okay.
Yep, there's even more. He lived a long life. There are lots of pictures of him, Cape Canaveral, running. If you just look him up on Wikipedia even, you see very distinguished pictures of him. He got honorary doctorates from 2 different U.S. Institutions, and he was the first director of the Kennedy Space Center.
Okay.
And
so
he
an important
was
guy, this Kurt fellow.
Yeah, and was unquestionably a Nazi.
Yeah, we did bring a bunch of those smart ones.
We brought a ton
All
of
the
them.
smart ones.
Yeah, apparently we did get the best ones.
Yeah.
From
I don't know how much
from
it
a
matters,
pure
but
skill standpoint, I guess.
sure.
But I started reading a lot of background on him, and all sources say he was as essential as von Braun in us getting to the moon. In basically everything we have done with NASA, it wouldn't have happened without his presence. It's weird. There's even a photo of him sitting right next, or a seat away from Kennedy, at Cape Canaveral during a missile test. It's pretty scary. He even has a lunar crater named for him on the far side of the moon.
I think I bought one of those for my mom for Christmas.
You can do that?
No, you know how you can always, like, some scam websites try to sell you stars and stuff like that.
Oh, weird.
It was a joke. It was a...
Did you actually, though?
No,
Have you ever
why
actually
would
done
I
those?
waste money
That's the
on
kind
that?
of thing that I would totally do.
Yeah, it does seem like something you would do.
Okay. Well, anyhow, moving right along, he said they did have certain weapons. We're talking about missiles, okay, rockets, because Kurt was not a rocket scientist. Okay,
Oh, well,
he was a plasma scientist. This is very
rare
important
because most of the paperclip Nazis that we took were rocket scientists.
And this is what's important when you think about him coming over and what he worked on while he was here. Okay. So they already had the V2 rocket.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was the V1. They had the V rocket. I'm just going to say V right now. We'll discuss this more next week, but he was tasked with looking for an easier way to get missiles and weapons across to enemy territory. And they mentioned something that totally threw me for a loop at first, but Neuschwabenland?
Neuschwabenland.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Neuschwabenland.
The fairy realm of Neuschwabenland.
Do you know what it means? It means Antarctica.
The fairyland of Antarctica, huh?
Okay, so Byron, you remember the stories we've talked about in the past about Operation High Jump?
I actually don't know if that one comes to mind.
So it was a famous military gentleman who supposedly flew a plane into the inner Earth.
Sure. So we're talking
at Antarctica.
We're talking like year 1, year 2 Frightday. Yeah.
Well, and you know all of the stories surrounding like supposed Nazi bases in Antarctica. This ties to all of that, and they're saying that there is some exotic material that they were able to get from literally that space inside Antarctica, and that's what fueled this new rocket that he was developing for the Nazis, and then that he came over and supposedly worked in America on.
I mean, we're getting dangerously close to luminiferous
capacitations.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and he referenced, this is kind of embarrassing for me to admit, but I felt a little bit better when both you and Sam said the same thing, because like my historical knowledge comes from all of adult research. I learned very little when I was younger. Operation Hydra,
which to people like Sam and I would immediately jump to Captain America.
Well, that's the only reference I had too, right? But it was actually 100% a real thing. It was when the RAF bombers, so from Rendlesham, remember?
Rendlesham Forest, yeah. Which to people who don't know, listen to our episode, but it's a European UFO experience, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, British to be specific, and there were many RAF forces. There was a bomber command, and they dropped bombs on the Peenemünde in 1943. So all of the research bases there, the research center, which obviously Kurt Davis was running, dropped bombs on, squashed it. And then we hear this name after that happened. His buddy Comler suggests that he move his research to an even quainter little village in southern Poland.
I'm sure you've heard of it.
Okay, so let's just pause for 1 second, because at this point I was so jazzed because I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is Kurt Davis. And then I found a connection where Kurt Davis and Hans Kemmler were incredibly good friends, and I'm like jumping up and down, screaming, I figured this out, so excited. And then at the very beginning of the third message, he says Kurt Davis.
Which we will be listening to.
So, but I did solve it before I listened to that message, so I was pretty proud of that.
Well, he said, I'm sure you've heard.
Well, no, he said, I'm sure you've heard of the town.
Oh, about the town.
Yeah.
Oh, but not, yes. Okay.
Right. And so I was really proud that I solved that mystery. But once his operations working on this weird type of propulsion, okay, which obviously sounds like it's a precursor to the work that Allentown did for 18 years with, I'm going to just hypothesize, Skunkworks. Kurt Davis was kind of the father of that work, it sounds like. Do we have more information?
Lockheed and Grunham? How do you say that one? Grumman?
Yeah, Grummond.
Yeah, maybe one of those.
And it totally could be, but I think it's Lockheed. I think it's Skunkworks through Lockheed. But the reason for that, well, we'll get there in a minute.
I was taking a beautiful jog around an equestrian park on March 28th at 5:18 p.m. It was a Friday.
Oh, wait, hold on. Is this the next episode already?
next
Okay, yeah, no, I'm not quite done yet.
Oh, I thought you were saying because sorry.
Yeah, I know.
You
I'm
were
sorry.
leading me in so well.
I'm sorry. I know, but it was a red herring.
Okay. That's fair, I guess.
Operation Hydra thought that it had put an end to a lot of this research that was going on, but in fact, there was a gentleman by the name of Hans Kammler who Sam and I have spent so much time learning about this man through actual historical books.
Does he get producer credit on this episode? What the hell?
No, he gets no fucking credit.
Okay. Because he wrote it all.
By all accounts, he actually was worse than Hitler. Like literally, there's a book called The Hidden Nazi, which I highly recommend to anybody who wants to learn about this man. It's not a woo-woo book. It is literally a crazy researched, So Kammler was the guy who orchestrated Operation Paperclip. He was the worst of the worst.
Like negotiated?
Yes.
Okay.
So Kammler, he built all of the concentration camps.
Yikes.
Okay. He created the systems in which they could fit more people in to spread disease more quickly and kill people more
I
quickly.
didn't know that was something they were trying to do.
Yep.
It just shows me how ignorant I am.
I mean, the more I read, I couldn't read full pages of the stuff on him. The SS officials that were interviewed would commonly refer to him as the most evil person they'd ever met. This is coming from...
He's a civil engineer.
Well, but turned everything. And
Yeah.
So he is absolutely terrifying, and he was a Nazi before Hitler was a Nazi.
Sure.
Like, he loved the concept of Nazism. He was so gung-ho about all of this. And in fact, the reason he suggested to Kurt that he moved to southern Poland is because this was where he was working on newer iterations of concentration camps.
They were practicing or creating camps?
Well, he was refining his architectural plans for them.
Sure.
Right? And so this was, these were even more, I would say, like pure death camps. He also, there are so many things about him. I'm just going to throw out a couple nuggets because otherwise we're going to get stuck here and not get through the third episode.
Sounds like this is a guy for me to do a four-parter on.
At least, okay? He also was the one that developed the...
That's great. He was like Stephen Miller for Trump. Interesting.
Yeah, except he was like Stephen Miller and fucking Elon and Bannon and the 15 people whose names we don't know but are actually doing all of the decision making because they have a higher IQ than Trump. Like, he's all of those people rolled into one. He's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And
trying to kind of upscale
this very well researched, like, we listened to this guy give a talk at a military museum. Like, he's not a Kelly person. He's like a real history person. The conclusion they came to at the end of The Hidden Nazi is he did not die at the end of the war, as it said he did, because obviously he negotiated this whole Operation Paperclip.
Why wouldn't he make a deal for himself?
Right, his record couldn't be scrubbed, so the hypothesis is that he was just hidden in some way. I have very strong feelings about what I think happened, and I think that's what we're getting at with this next episode, this next portion of information that we have from our whistleblower. And now I am leading you into it, Byron.
Wonderful.
Okay.
It was a Friday. It was beautiful. I was unwinding, probably before a casual Frightday, which, of course, you can subscribe right here at live.frightday.com. Kelly will be there one of these days. We'll have to have you back. You had a great time last time. You said a bunch of controversial things.
I'm always saying controversial things.
But
can't help it.
A couple laps in, I get a notification on my phone. Blackmail 1953 at proton.me. Allen Town. Oh my God. Wait a second. That's interesting.
What?
I didn't notice this before.
What?
The name is changed from Pooh to Allentown between the two emails. But it's the same email address. So maybe Pooh was not intentional.
Whoa.
So.
Or maybe it switched.
I don't think it doesn't switch. That would have to be a choice from the creator of the email address to change the name.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that it was unintentional before.
Either way.
The theme has changed.
I got this message that says,
that hold their sway between the earth and sky, descend out of the golden vapors there.
Okay, you missed it. Can you stop?
Yeah.
The subject is actually the first line of the poem.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I didn't know that. The subject is,
If there be spirits in the air
it goes on to say,
that hold their sway between the earth and sky, descend out of the golden vapors there, and sweep me into iridescent life. Oh, came a magic cloak into my hands, to carry me to distant lands. I should not trade it for the choicest gown, nor for the cloak and garments of the crown.
This is from a play written in the early 1800s
a bit more
by
contemporary,
Johann Wolfgang von Goethe.
modern.
Faust. So people reference like Faustian stories, Faustian philosophy, Faustian all sorts of things. This is the story of a man who sold his soul to the devil. And he is, I think, pretty directly referencing the way in which America sold our soul to the devil.
Sorry, my redneck neighbors are doing wheelies.
And
outside.
Byron, if you could look up that book I mentioned to you,
What one?
the Hidden Nazi, the real history one,
Yeah.
can you read to me what the subtitle of that book is?
The Untold Story of... Is that the
Yep,
one?
yep.
Uh-huh. Let's see. The Untold Story of America's Deal with the Devil.
And so this is, I felt really good about this too. That's exactly what he's referencing. It's a Faustian story, what we did with Paperclip, because we were trying to gain power and literally reach into outer space more successfully with the help of Nazis, which required us selling our soul. And in this clip, he's going to tell us a little bit about some of the ways in which we did just that.
Yeah, it's time to hear the most recent message from Allentown.
After the war, Kurt Davis paper-clipped off to Florida with Von Braun to tease the Russians with his vulgar tubes of shit-fire. Fatuous theater, all of it. 90% of Explorer's budget went towards high-speed Kodachrome and Brill cream. But little to no dabbling among the unhallowed damps. Kamla, meanwhile, was resettled in Otero County, New Mexico. Taxpayer dollars secured him a lovely split-level adobe home just 6 miles from the Alamogordo Army Airfield, where his laboratory was relocated. The first American batch of Machinen Elfen, Kamla's preferred term, was sourced from the St. Anthony Home for Boys up in Albuquerque. That joint was a real horror show. Runaways were very, very frequent.
You gotta.
So when Herr Kamla came across...
What?
Sorry, the part where we've got to beep it.
Of
coming
course I
up.
will.
Okay, sorry.
Why
I was
would
just being.
you
I'm sorry. I just got really nervous.
offering technical scholarship. The Sisters of St. Francis gladly offered up 37 of their hardest hard cases. I'll spare Ms. the most lurid
You
tales.
No, I'll do it. And when
So
we
let it
actually
be
do it
sufficient to
live.
say that
I mean, it
the
is right now.
boys
Well, no one
were
cares.
given Homeric doses of luminol before the cutting started. The smallest of mercies, I suppose.
Of course. And then you. Okay. This music is also very interesting. This is something that Creature is actually really into researching and seeing what she can find out about it. She's very into the music.
Wait, what does that mean?
I don't know. She thinks that there's something about the differences between the music and what's trying to be told in that piece of the story.
Sure, but what is she doing about it?
I don't know. She's... Excuse me. She's looking into it.
What does that mean, though?
Yeah, well, okay. So, by the way, there's somebody in our chat who has hit the nail on the head. Don't say it out loud yet, but
Okay.
totally has hit the nail on the head. We get to, after the war, both of these assholes, Kurt Davis comes over and becomes the hero of the Kennedy Space Center and the Apollo program. And Kurt Davis supposedly died at the end of the war. As I said, according to this book, he in fact did not. They hypothesized that he went to Antarctica. Pardon me, that he went to Argentina. I don't think so. I think he came right here. I think the only reason we were willing to work with him is because we said, we want your information. He was literally taking orders from no one other than Hitler at the end of the war. He was that high up, and he knew more than anyone else did about the research that was being done. There's a lot of evidence that he was heavily involved in biological research that was happening, not just rocket research. According to Allentown, he settled in a place in Otero County, New Mexico. I discovered that there was a little place in New Mexico where so many Operation Paperclip people were brought that was called Little Peenemund, named after the city on the Baltic Sea that was the rocket research facility originally that got leveled when the RAF bombers dropped stuff on it. But I thought that was pretty creepy. He was living 6 miles from Alamogordo Army Airfield. Let me tell you how much I want to go back down there and find out which house was his. I really want to figure out what name, like Allentown, if you're listening, I want to know what his name was when he came here. What was he living under?
I figured out the music.
Oh, what's the music?
It's by an artist.
Just this last one.
Yeah, it's Carson Christ is the name of the artist. Carson with Karson. Christ.
I mean, it sounded very biblical.
The song's called Unreleased. Yeah, interesting.
Interesting. Okay, well, that's good.
Let's make sure that this is it, though.
Hundo P.
Except the pitch is different.
I can tell you a guitar.
What's
Sell
that?
it to everybody.
I think it's about to go off.
That part wasn't in there.
Nope.
Okay, so I bet this guy's sampling that.
Yeah, I would.
So that's from
and
something
I can
else.
also dig
Keep
in
digging.
to see.
So
yeah.
it really isn't that Christ gentleman. It is somebody else who is
though.
being sampled without credit, I would assume.
We'll find out.
Okay. All right. And yes, all signs point to the fact that Allentown's trying to tell us that Commler was operating on human subjects. It says that the source of these, and Maschinen Elfen, which, is basically elf machines, right?
Sure.
Little people machines. He was taking kids from a boys' home in Albuquerque, which is in fact a real boys' home. Did look into that. St. Anthony Home for Boys in Albuquerque.
Bad news over there.
Weird. Runaways
I mean, that's pretty
showed
normal.
up there a lot, and then
Runaways showed up there
at the boys' home.
Oh.
And then Commler would come and take ones that he wanted, and nobody would miss them. And as I said, somebody in our chat pointed out, so MK Ultra then. And I think that's exactly what Allentown's getting at. So we're now in New Mexico. We are in 1945, 46 probably. And we have Commler, by every account I have found, the most evil Nazi, which I realize is like a crazy superlative, but that's what I keep seeing over and over again.
Yeah.
Like the least human who's ever existed. Cutting and performing God knows what kind of experiments on these boys. And we are...
It's turning into making them like dwarf goes fishing so they can fit inside these crafts. Is that...
Well...
Is dwarf okay? Dwarf isn't PC anymore.
I'm pretty sure Dorf never was, but now he's really
the
not.
guy walking with his knees in the shoes.
Yeah, I don't think we can talk about Dorf.
Yeah, rest in peace, Dwarf.
But what I can talk about is the fact that I think Allentown is about to tell us that, hey, Captain Kelly, you have been wrong about Roswell.
You think you're about to hear the truth about Roswell
I think
at the end of all of this?
I do. Well, hopefully it's not the end, because I feel like Allentown has a lot to tell us. But I think that the next installment is him bringing forth information about it was Kurt's vehicle testing Kurt's engineered humans made by splicing these boys from St. Anthony's home in Albuquerque.
Kurt's boys.
That crashed at Roswell.
Wow.
Yeah, that's my hypothesis. And I have so many more layers to dig into. We've got the Nazi bell that we need to discuss. We've got an incident that happened in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania that I think ties into all of this. I might have an apology that I have to make to Annie Jacobson because of the bullshit she said at the end of her book about Roswell.
Remember you were upset about
I was
that.
really fucking upset about it. And now I'm wondering if she actually was right. We've got a couple in Roswell that we haven't even discussed, the Wilmots, who saw a UFO, and their story was reported actually on the same day as the Roswell sighting was reported. We have a video of the Bell facility in Germany. We have Mikhail Gorbachev. We have a lot of things that we need to discuss, and this is before we even get another installment from our whistleblower.
Yeah, but you have to remember, that wasn't the last part of this. Included in that email,
I know. And so
correspondence.
I've been waiting to see these fucking pictures, and I'm just wondering if any of my crazy theories about what Allentown is trying to tell us are correct. So could you please show me the fucking pictures? Because
included in the last
my girls
email.
almost called you. They were so upset.
They're not allowed. And
I mean, a good thing they don't have phones, but they almost called you using mine.
Call me. Don't do that. But I think it's 6 pictures, 6 or 5, and I put the title or the I guess the file name.
Have you altered them in any other way?
In no way. So a lot of these appear to either.
Can you email them to me right away so that I can look at them when I go home?
I will not do them right away, but before you leave, I will.
Okay.
So this is, I think it was Gimel. I feel like, Gimel.png. And this is why
and it was 1M? It was just 1M?
Yes.
You're sure? Okay.
Please give me 1 second. Why you need to go to youtube.com/Frightday too. Don't back your face away from she's really close to the TV there. Watch the video version of this show at youtube.com/Frightday if you want to get a good idea of what's going on. They can't see your head at all.
I'm sorry.
You're
I'm
off
sorry.
screen.
I'm sorry.
So this is figure 24. I don't know if we're going to get much further, but I know in the next...
No.
No. I'm going to show you the pictures. Calm down. God.
It's been almost a month.
I agree. No, I'm saying I don't think we're going to be able to break them down too terribly much, but maybe in the next
because I got to give you the breakdown.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Okay. All right.
So that's figure 24. This is...
what the fuck?
ALEPH.png. And...
That's a fucking fractal.
So I don't know if this is a common style of scientific drawing, but I was able to, when I reverse image searched. Oh, okay, well, I'll show you.
No, keep going.
I'll show you in a sec. You got to use your words. This is an audio podcast.
Oh, sorry.
I did do a reverse image search. We'll talk about it in a second. This is dalet.png, which appears to be, this is a straightforward schematic of what appears to be an energy UFO, right?
Yeah. Fucking redacted McGillicuddy.
Yeah.
All those labels, all those beautiful labels redacted. Hold on, are those trees?
I don't think they're trees, Kelly. They're not using...
What are the weird things?
Inside?
Yeah.
They're vents, probably, to release heat or pressure.
No. There and there.
Arrows. So arrows on a...
Oh, it's just pixelated around the edges. That's what was confusing me. Okay, so
there's that.
Interesting.
And this is he.png, which I believe is an image of God. But it is not. Clearly it's not.
What?
I don't know.
The fuck? Scroll back up. What?
So we've got more redactions, but also around all the images, there appears to be like a vignetting, almost as if these are meant to look like they were photographed, like with a camera of not scanned necessarily. I don't know what they're going for.
Or a bad scanner.
Well, yeah, I guess, but I don't know what this image is. And also, it's kind of... It almost looks a little bit like a uterus or something, right?
A fucking... very angular one.
Yeah, but you see what I'm saying. We've got...
It looks to me a little bit like an octopi.
All right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And I don't know what the color significance is. Everything's been
red?
gray until now, and that one's red. Followed by, I think this is the last one. It's called bet.png. And it's figure 18. If you want to read what it says there, 1.5 milligrams of...
Magnification.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense than milligrams. But...
Okay, I'm totally sending these to my engineer consultant.
I think that might be a good thing to send. But yeah, again, redactions all over the place. And I haven't reverse image searched all of them, but I did reverse image search the initial fractal looking one. And it looks like something close came up for a NASA.gov document training session. So I went to that.
What the fuck?
And it breaks down the FUN 3D V 13.4, training session 12, which I don't know what.
2018.
I don't know what any of this is, and the image isn't exact.
Hold on, let me see.
So.
Adapted for shot prep. Drag. Okay.
I feel like this is all maybe representing traveling through time. Like maybe that is the like through space time. You see how that, like if it was flat, it would be no lines, but all those lines represent the bending of maybe time or space.
I mean, it might just be the forces of drag
in general
on an object moving through the air, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
yeah,
admittedly this is way beyond
it's way
anything
beyond me.
I
for me,
I can even
obviously
explain. I might send this to I've got my physics brain scientist friend Mike. I'll pass these along to as well. We'll see how this goes.
Okay.
But yeah. I guess that's Allentown Whistleblower Part 1.
Oh, I guess I can send them to a physicist too. I can send them a couple places.
How you feeling, Kelly?
I really just want to go look up these images for like the next 10 hours.
You gotta start sleeping and take those wristbands off. You've been out of that event for a while.
Well,
honestly, you don't need them. You can kind of just go wherever you want.
No, but they make me happy. They're like virtue signaling.
Okay, well, that's funny to do.
I did it for a meeting yesterday with a new client, and she was like, I see that wristband. Were you at the rally today? Because I was. I'm like, yes, I was.
Well, that's wonderful. I do want you to rest up because I guess this is continuing into next week. So people are impressed with the amount of effort.
Oh, a hydra. Somebody suggested that the he picture looks like a hydra. That is fascinating.
The he picture, huh? I love that you've already remembered the names
and
of them.
he is helium too. I mean, like, oh my God, there is so much that. Yeah. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to work some of this into my D&D campaign with the neighborhood kids that are really smart.
Let's
and
call
see
it
how
a
much
night,
of it they
Kelly.
can solve.
You should stop trying
Alan, here's the thing. Whatever you're doing, if you're totally bullshitting me, I mean, I'm along for the ride, but there's enough that I found that's tied to reality that I am deeply appreciative you've chosen us to send material to. Please send more. Please, I'm sorry it took so long.
Come on now.
I'll work on it right away this time, I promise.
You don't need to beg.
I will beg.
I don't think you need to beg.
Not too proud to beg.
It's interesting, and I want you to, if you have a friend who is interested in this kind of stuff or is working within like the MUFON circles or you think that would be generally interested in this,
please
send it to them. Share this with your friends. Share it because we really want to get to the bottom of whatever is going on.
Absolutely.
In Allentown.
Oh my God.
Kelly, thanks for throwing this together. I guess.
Thank you. Next week we will be talking the next layer of it, and especially the response to these images now that I finally have them.
Until then, though, I'm Byron.
I'm Kelly.
Stay unredacted.
Stay away from Nazis.
Sure. And stay scared.
Bye, everybody. Oh my God, this is amazing.
You've been listening to an Audio Wool original, produced by Byron McKoy. Theme music is provided by Yawns. For more programs like this, visit audiowool.co.